to test out how this new old stock vintage 12AX7 Mullard ECC83, however you want to call it, is going to affect both of my amps, a Fender amp and a Vox amp. My new Vox AC4 hand-wired reverb amp and my 1967 Fender Princeton Reverb amp is going to be affected by this Mullard, if it will be affected at all. Now, quick disclaimer, all of the amps, I'm going to keep the EQ the same for the Fender and a different kind of EQ for the Vox, and the only thing that's going to change is really just swapping between the preamp tubes. And the Vox AC4 hand-wired came with a JJ already stuck into the amp, and the Fender had an RCA 7025 already on the amp. So really, with the Fender, you're going to be hearing a comparison between the RCA and the Mullard, just for fun. I really want to see how it affects my Vox AC4, and does it bring out any of those good characteristics that you'd associate with the Vox amp. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I really want to see if I'll hear a difference, or even hear a difference, feel whatever, as I'm playing in the room. So at the end of this video, I'll tell you guys what I think. So I hope you enjoy it. We're going to start with the Fender. It's going to be a bit clean, and then the Vox is going to be a little bit more higher overdrive kind of sound. So let's go ahead and start with that Fender first. Let's do it. So you just heard both amps with that vintage 12AX7 Mullard, the Vox AC4 and the 1967 Fender Princeton Reverb. Did you hear a difference? Because let me just say right off the bat, in the room, I could hear a difference. The Mullard sounded like it gave some clarity to both of the amps. I could hear it in the room, but when I listened to the sound samples, when I recorded it through my mics, I barely heard a difference, just barely heard a difference, especially through the mic. Barely heard a difference. You could hear some clarity, but you just, if you were blind testing yourself, listening to those samples, you just couldn't hear a difference. I certainly couldn't. I had to really focus, and I could hear a difference. So what does that say about something like this? These vintage Mullards, these RCA tubes, they tend to cost a lot of money on the internet when you buy them. Even if they're in excellent condition, you expect to pay even more. So I have a theory. I believe that really what you need to focus on is, does your tube function well? One of the things I hear about modern tubes is that they tend to run out of juice, quote unquote, faster than the older tubes. A good condition new old stock tube can last decades on decades and decades and still give you a great function and great sound. And these modern tubes tend to die out very quickly. And I think what a lot of people might be hearing is their modern tubes running out of juice, and then they slap on these vintage tubes and they hear a huge difference, when in reality is what they're hearing is just a functioning tube working on their amp. That could be one theory. I could be wrong. There is maybe some missing piece of the puzzle that I'm not getting that you guys are, and I'm welcoming you all to enlighten me in the comments, because I heard just barely a difference with this Mullard. It was just barely a difference. Made it a bit clearer, and that's a good thing. It's a plus. So I'm going to keep it on my Vox amp. But they're overpriced. They really are. And I think that if you're curious, by all means, give it a go yourself. Treat yourself. Get yourself something really nice for your amps. But they do come with a hefty price tag. And they do make a difference, but it's very subtle, and maybe to the untrained ear, you just will not tell. Certainly, your audience will not tell. And certainly, in a recording situation, like if you're recording for a song, it will not make or break your song. You will be perfectly fine with your tubes. So this is really just a luxury, something that we guitar players just will enjoy if you can. It's not a requirement. But you know, everybody goes down crazy rabbit holes in search of the perfect tone. So I would recommend maybe pausing on this rabbit hole and think about it before you go right into it, because it just might not be worth it, and it might not give you the change that you're looking for in your amp. Try your speakers, and that might make a much bigger difference for you. But overall, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed doing this little experiment. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.